Hey, what's up, Raider Nation? Geno Smith threw the ball more than 40 times, and the Raiders barely ran it. We're going to get into that on today's episode. And of course, Q Myers and Lincoln Kennedy will be joining me.
Raider Nation, I know it was a hard night last night. Trust me, I had to watch it with you. It is a lot of things that we're going to talk about, a lot of things that have to be addressed, most notably that offensive line. I'll give my keys next.
Well, we're going to try to make sense of what doesn't make sense, and that is the game plan that was what we saw on Monday Night Football. Buckle up. It's the Raider Squad Show. Let's get it.
Raider Nation, it's time. This is the Raiders Squad. Everything Las Vegas Raiders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Death Star in the desert. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Commitment to excellence starts here. The Raiders Squad Show starts now.
Hey, what's up, Raider Nation? Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels. You'll see in the description below the ways that you can connect with us. Also, we just want to say thank you so much for making Locked On Raiders or the Locked On Raiders Squad Show your first listen of the day. You are also listening to the #1 sports podcasting network. And we do appreciate you for all the support, helping the channel grow, also helping the show grow. And if you've already hit that like and subscribe button, we do appreciate you. And remember, you can also find us on the audio side if you're watching this on YouTube. So if you got a couple of minutes, leave a rate and review. Before we get into everything that's on the show today, quickly from our sponsors, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, in the final segment, get your questions and comments in the chat if you're watching this on YouTube right now, because Q Myers and Lincoln Kennedy will be taking some of your questions, answering some of those comments as well. In that final segment, we're also going to get into, just everything that's going on with the coaching staff, the rookies. We're going to talk about the O-line a little bit. But guys, I think we have to start off with talking about what we saw last night, Monday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. The Raiders got embarrassed, I guess you could say, by the Cowboys on another primetime game. And this was another game on primetime where I felt like they were embarrassed, but it was another game this season where I felt like there was embarrassed. And when there's multiple games where you're embarrassed on national television, that just does not make for a good season. They're sitting at 2-8 now. This team does not look good. And I think you could argue, and I said this before, that they could possibly be the worst team in the NFL just based off their performances. They lost 33-16. And it wasn't even that close. That score tells you something else, but it wasn't even that close. Q, you're laughing, so we'll go with you first. Just your thoughts on the games and your takeaways.
Yeah, it wasn't that close. The Raiders got a garbage time touchdown late from Trey Tucker, and, good for him. He's having a good season. But all in all, look, the game was bad, right? Start to finish. They got off to, they scored 6 points early. Should have been more. Max Crosby's coming out, playing with his hair on fire, making plays defensively, helping the Raiders get into good position offensively, and then they can't get things going. I didn't understand the game plan. I'm not a coach. I want to make that perfectly clear. I'm not a coach. I'm not in the meeting room while they're putting their game plan together. I never understood it from the jump. We knew that they had questions in the offensive line going into the game. Pete Carroll told us on Saturday they had made some decisions, but we weren't going to find out till game time, and I'm glad he did. I'm glad he didn't let us know until game time, because it didn't make any sense when we saw it rolled out there. Meredith over at the guard spot, Putnam there at the center position. You've told me all year long that Jordan Meredith is the right guy, the guy that they're excited about at the center position for this reason, that reason, and the other. And the first opportunity that you have, you put him back at guard, right? And then you bring Putnam in at the center position, and you tell me that your third-round pick's not good enough to even be active on game day. That's where the questions for me started, and that was obviously before the game.
So disappointing, so embarrassing. As a former Raider, I try to put in perspective the plays and performances that we've seen this year, and I cannot put it in words. Because it's been unfathomable. And look, it's been so gut-wrenching that when you try to watch a unit that I'm very passionate about, the offensive line, be a practical turnstile.
Yeah.
Geno didn't even get 3 seconds. As a tackle, I used to count 3 Mississippi and look down and see if Rich has thrown the ball. If not, he's probably running. Geno can't even do that. By the time he sets up with the ball, there are so many people in his face, around his arms. There's no way. There's no clear path to throw. And more importantly, last night, He came into last night's game fixated to get the ball to Brock Bowers. Absolutely obsessed to get the ball to Brock Bowers. And then when it wasn't, Ashton Jeanty on a swing pass or something like that. Did not look other places for quite some time other than the wide open Jack Best. I mean, look.
One target for him.
Yeah,
One
exactly.
target,
But when you throw the ball that many times, you're telling me, well, you have no confidence in your run game, one. But the proof in the pudding, you have no confidence in your pass protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this all along. You have to help yourself out by going under center, taking the pressure off your tackles. You already know your tackles struggle with speed. So why would you put them out there with guys like Jadeveon Clowney and those other guys coming off the corner, and you saw people around Geno Smith's arm all night long? They had no answer for him. So much to the game plan. I, just like Q and Shantelle, I'm confused.
Yeah.
What's the game plan? What can you do? What you won't try to run the football. You won't commit to trying to run the football because that's really the only thing you can do to keep the clock running. You want to throw the ball so many times. Geno might not make it through the end of the season.
No.
Some of the hits he's taken.
You know, the other thing about it is, when you look at it, and I got this stat over here, 31 dropbacks in the first half to only 3 called runs. Now, there was 4 runs because Geno took off and scrambled on 1. And I get it. Everyone's been telling me, yeah, Q, you can't run the ball because the offensive line. Well, you can't pass block either. So, I mean, you have to at some point try to slow down a pass rush that is, licking their chops and feeling like that they've got you dead in the water anytime you snap the ball. So at some point, you have to run the ball. You have to run the ball just to try to slow them down a little bit. Again, I know, and Lincoln, you're better than me at this. I mean, how do you, what's the counteract? What's the counter move? I mean, again, it's hard to do just about anything, right? You can't operate. We talked about this before the season ever started. If the offensive line doesn't come together, offense is going to be hard. You can have all the bells and whistles. It's not going to matter if the O-line's not there. I don't know how you counter that. I'm not going to lie to you. Again, I'm trying to make sense of what doesn't make sense, but I know that ain't it. 31 dropbacks to 3 rushes ain't it.
Let me say this. They ran 1 draw, success. I think they ran 1 screen, moderate success.
Mm-hmm.
I think to Ashton Jeanty. This is where I came in earlier in the season, said I wish they were a better draw and screen team to help take some of that pressure. Because what you have now, you just have defensive linemen taping back their ears and going full bore because they know you have no counter.
Right.
They've not seen enough of it. Until you can obviously do things to misguide them and slow them down, they're just going to come full bore. They run a lot of stunts, which puts the offensive line on separate levels. And more times than not, when the guards allow penetration from the defensive tackles, they pick the tackles. So there's no way the tackles can respond. They don't shut down the line of scrimmage. When you can't control the line of scrimmage, you can't run the ball. You really can't pass the ball successfully because you don't know how to pass off those games when you're having all these interchangeable parts. So with that being said, the formula for the rest of the year, I don't know. It was a disaster last night on Monday Night Football. I don't know what you do for the rest of the year because there are things that are not in their wheelhouse, should be, but they're not. And I don't know how you coach that overnight.
Ashton Jeanty had 6 carries for 7 yards. And I just don't know why you draft an Ashton Jeanty and then you don't plan to use him. And that's probably one of the most frustrating things. And I understand the O-line, but then all week we're hearing about a guy like, Caleb Rogers, he might get in. That he might get in all week. And we're thinking, okay, there's going to be a little bit of a change. They're making some adjustments. And then he is inactive. Right. He's a healthy scratch. He can't even get on the active roster, essentially. And to me, it's like, this guy is your 3rd round pick. What are we doing here? And they put Putnam in at center, and they've been telling us they've been trying to convince us, guys, all season that Jordan Meredith is the center, right? And Raider Nation was like wilding out early on. We were like, what's going on here? Like, I thought, that was JPJ's position. And all of season, they're telling us that it's Jordan Meredith, and then they make the switch, and they don't put in a guy like Caleb Rogers. Link, what does that tell you when you see something like that happen? Like, I need to know because I'm confused here.
Here's the thing. I'll preface it by saying there are a few guys. There are a few guys on that offensive line that aren't starters in the National Football League. They're backups, and there's only so far you can go with backups.
Yep.
Okay, and I say that because of this. Look, I had a very interesting conversation with a Raider Nation fan yesterday at tailgating, talking about JPJ not playing center. I don't mind JPJ not playing center. The reason why is this: JPJ is an intense player. Okay, he is one of those guys that will go run through a wall if you tell him to. I have no problem with that. At center, it's very critical. The most important thing is what? The snap.
Yep.
There have been times when JPJ has been at center, he's been so gung-ho to go knock somebody's head off. He missed snaps, fumbled the ball, possible turnover. I don't mind taking that tenacity and putting it at guard. That's going to give me, he's going to give me my men, my mauler in the middle. Go. And it happened for a while when we keep him helping. The problem is twofold. One, he can't stay healthy. 2 years, you look at the number of scratches and how many times he's been injured. So that's the first concern. And two, trying to figure out where to do with this line. I know that Putnam's a better center than he is a guard. So that makes sense at that point. But I don't understand the Rodgers scratch. I really don't.
Right.
And the thing is that I'm a firm believer, especially for offensive line, the more plays that you get, the more times that you're in there, the better off you're going to be. So if you're going to tell me that he's a healthy scratch, there's something that's not right. Pete Carroll addressed it last night in his press conference. He says, I'm going to put the best people on the field that I think. Okay. All right. So then we're going back to the evaluating. You're telling me that the 3rd round pick is not one of your better players. Because I'm telling you, there's a couple guys on that offensive line that aren't starters.
Right.
They might be career backups.
Right.
They might be the guy that you spell in the 4th quarter when your team is up by 20 points and you want to get your offensive guard or your offensive tackle out there. That might be the case. But you have to create a system that can best utilize the talent that you have on field. You have to call a game that can best utilize the talent that you have on field. And the fact that you're backing up and passing the ball as many times or trying to pass the ball as many times you did is not conducive to the health of this team. So the best thing to do for offensive linemen, go forward.
Yep.
Go forward.
Yep.
Give me all you can forward for 2-3 yards. Do what you can do 2-3 yards. But every time they seem to call a run, there's so much penetration by the opposing defenses. There's some sort of level of miscommunication. You got to solidify the communication. Guys got to know where they're going to go, and they got to go full speed. That's the way that I would handle it. But what we're seeing right now is just the opposite. Okay, we're going to sit back and we're going to try to pass the ball. We're going to try to pass the ball again. They start off with play action, and what kills me, play action works in this game, and they're not running the football.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, that's like somebody running the Wildcat and saying, oh, well, we're going to pass. No, you're not. You're going to run the football. It's not that hard. How is it hard defense to stop the Wildcat? He's got the ball. He's not going to throw.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I say that, and I say it in jest. It's so hard. And really, it really is frustrating to watch this team sort of unfold the way it is, because now 10 games into the season, we are forced to talk about next year.
Yep.
We're forced to project for the draft. Where do they go? In the short summary, Shantelle and Q, I know we'll get into it later in later weeks. We know they need a franchise quarterback. We know they need a franchise tackle. Those are 2 of the main picks right there. 2 of your big picks. But for us to finish off the season, I'd like to finish off with a semblance of pride. I just don't know how it happens.
Yeah, it's tough, and I think Lincoln just summed it perfectly up. But I'll tell you this: before the game, I got concerned when I saw that Antonio Mafi was elevated from the practice squad to the roster. I thought, hold on, wait a minute. Now he's being activated from the practice squad, and then you see and turn around and say Caleb Rogers is a healthy scratch. So what you're telling me, again, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, never claimed to be. You're telling me that a guy on the practice squad is better than your 3rd round pick that you selected. I didn't select him. Not another staff selected him. You selected him. You're telling me he can't even be a backup? You rather bring a guy from the practice squad up to be a backup, just in case of emergency break glass guy? You rather bring him up than have your guy at least dress? Like, that's why, to me, it's deeper than, well, the competition and he didn't just cut it in practice. To me, it's there's a problem with philosophy between the guys upstairs and the guys on the field and the sideline. The guy on the sideline wants to try to win right now, wants to play his veterans, does not want to be forced into, well, let's see how these guys, what we have in these guys. The guys upstairs, and Lincoln, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong, the guys upstairs are like, hey, I want to see what Caleb Rogers looks like. I want to see possibly what Charles Grant looks like. I want to see what Jack Besh and Dante Thornton could do, because I need to know what we have for this team moving forward. And I think that that's where the rubber meets the road. I don't think the 2 philosophies are meshing right now between the upstairs, which is the GM, John Spytek, and downstairs, which is the head coach, Pete Carroll.
Yeah. And okay, so Pete Carroll in his post-game presser, and I'm paraphrasing here, but somebody had asked him, are we going to more likely see, Rogers or Grant later on? And Pete Carroll, his response was, we're trying to win football games.
Yeah.
Like,
we don't
are
think like
we?
that. That's what you guys think.
Yeah. And it's like, are we trying to win football games? Because I don't know if the coaching staff is putting their players in the best position. I don't think Ashton Genty was put in the best position. I don't even think that O-line was put in the best position. So in terms of the coaching staff, I think there's a lot of questions, but also, another thing that we have to talk about is all facets of this team look bad. Like, it wasn't just the offense. The defense could only do so much, but they started to look bad as well. And a guy like Caillou Blue-Kelly was benched in that fourth quarter, and Darian Porter had to come in. Like, just your guys' thoughts also on the defense's performance, and then also special teams, where special teams, listen, they've struggled all year, and they did make a change there in terms of coaching, but still all facets of this team looked extremely bad, Linc.
True.
Check,
yeah, exactly.
check.
Yeah, exactly. Man, Shantelle and Q, the thing is that when you're sitting here trying to explore opportunities and what you can do and see what guys can do, we knew coming in that Dallas could move the football.
Yep.
Had a potent offense, especially at the receiver. And we knew one of the biggest blemishes for Patrick Graham's defense is the intermediates and long routes. They exploited that. Mm-hmm. Because they took Max Crosby as much out of the game, and Max Crosby had a big game. Yeah. The strip sack in the beginning, that gave the offense a chance. But when you can't score touchdowns, you lose confidence. You can't score touchdowns, your offense lose confidence. Yeah, you got 3 points, but it's touchdowns. That's how you show that things are working. You get first down in the red zone and you can't move.
Backwards.
This is it. Go backwards. I was sitting up in the alumni suite, and one of the alumni said, "Well, this is normal space where the Raiders give up a sack in this area." It happened right then and there. I'm like, "Yep, there it is." And now you're second down to 12 or third down to 10. They are not as proficient an offense to overcome that. They have not found that ability because, one, they don't have time. So anytime you're trying to set up to allow the receivers to go downfield to establish their routes, create separation, it's not there. And what did you see in the second half? You saw forced balls left and right, whether you were making a conscious effort to get it to Brock Bowers or the conscious effort to get to Ashton Genty. Yep. And the defense is just sitting there looking at it. We know you want to go to him. We know you want to go to him. We're going to take him away. There were a lot of times that ball was put in jeopardy. We saw the turnover when they were marching down, which is unfortunate. But I think that Geno Smith is right now skittish because he's been hit so many times. I fear for him because I don't think he's going to finish the season. In all honesty, the hits that he's taken, I don't think he finishes.
He probably doesn't think he's going to.
Well, I mean, there might come a time where a quarterback or a player says, "You know what? I'm not going out there anymore. If y'all can't protect me, I'm not going to go out there," because everyone is holding him responsible for the woes of this offense, and it's not all on him.
Right?
You see what I'm saying? It's a collective effort. Meanwhile, the defense can only hold up for so long, and even against some of the best offenses, they played well enough, but in the second half, they got exploited, and Dak Prescott went to town. It is an embarrassment for me to hear MVP chants in Allegiant Stadium for an opposing quarterback.
Yeah. That was bad. That was really bad.
That's just it.
You heard that. You heard "Let's Go Cowboys" multiple times. Yeah. Every time they made a play, it was, the crowd went wild. And again, we're in Allegiant Stadium. It was a complete Cowboy takeover, and start to finish, that Cowboys team went out there and dominated. And something I knew to pay attention to going into that game was the secondary, right? I mean, you talked about the defense. You knew that they had CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and outside the first drive where they were held out for discipline, right? I mean, they went to town, right? And Eric Stokes, I think he did a decent job, but you knew that Caillou Blue-Kelly and Darian Porter were going to have their hands cut out, work cut out for him, and they did. George Pickens is in the contract year. One, he's a hell of a player. Two, he's in the contract year, so he's extra motivated. He showed up and showed out in a major way.
Oh, my goodness.
CeeDee Lamb is still CeeDee Lamb, right? I mean, I think a lot of Raider fans go back to thinking, man, that could have been a Raider, right, at one point, but he's a hell of a wide receiver. So the Raiders, man, they ran into a buzzsaw, and they just didn't have the stones. They didn't have the players. They didn't have the execution. That was something that all the players in the locker room said post game was, that our practices have been fine. We go out there on game day and we don't execute the correct way. And that goes to your point. Players play, coaches coach, players play.
The very first preseason game we saw against Seattle, we talked about how the missed tackles and the poor angles really affected us watching this game, the defense. They somewhat corrected it. But last night, how many missed tackles did we see?
Oh, man.
It seemed like when the receivers caught the ball in the secondary, everybody was bouncing off of them. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, linebackers, safeties. I mean, they're throwing safeties down, by big tight ends and stuff like that, making them look like kids play. You shouldn't even be out here. That's embarrassing. And look, for the defensive standard, they can only do so much. They can only do so much, and I get it. But the offense has got to complement them, and it's not happening, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. You know, with Cleveland coming in, is anybody going to be watching this game?
Yes. You know the problem's going to be? Yeah, there's going to be a ton of Browns fans that are going to be in the building.
Absolutely,
there's going to be a ton of 12 in the building. There's going to be a lot of Shador fans because it looks like Shador is going to end up getting the start.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's any good. From what I saw, he didn't look good at all on Sunday. But you know what? There's going to be a lot of folks that are representing Colorado that are going to show up. Prime in the building. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a ton of folks in the building. Unfortunately, they're not going to be watching the dudes in silver and black.
Yeah, and it's two struggling fan bases, two struggling teams. But I think the whole Shador Sanders thing, if the Raiders can't make it difficult for a rookie quarterback, and Shador Sanders, remember, they were saying that he didn't get any first team reps before he went into that game this past Sunday. It's going to be very interesting. The defense has had some bright spots this season, but there's only so much that they can do. Right. And we're going to still stay with the offense on the other side. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're listening or watching the Raider Squad Show. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. And we do appreciate you making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcasting network. We do appreciate you. And also for continuing to grow the channel and also grow Locked On Raiders and the Squad Show. And of course, you can find us on the audio side. So if you got a couple of minutes, leave a rate and review. Guys, let's stick with the offense because obviously there's so many questions. And I feel like we can't even answer all the questions because I think everybody is confused. But you guys talked a little bit about Geno Smith, and it isn't entirely his fault. Like even some of those interceptions, even though he's throwing the interceptions, sometimes they're tipped. Like it's not all of his fault, but also the guys in front of him have to block for him, and he's not getting a lot of protection. And both of you have said you don't know if he's going to make it till the end of the season because of all the hits that he's taken. But at the same time, I want to know, is he still the best option at quarterback? Because no matter what, I think the only way to find out what these other guys have is if you put them on the field. But even though Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly have decided not to do that yet, that's still an option. We'll go with you first, Q. Is Geno Smith still the best option at quarterback, even though we can kind of see his confidence going lower and lower each game with how many hits he's been taking?
I wish I could really answer that question and be 100% truthful, but the answer is I really don't know, right? Because, again, we haven't seen anyone else. All we've seen is Aiden O'Connell back in the preseason, and we haven't seen Kenny Pickett at all except for a couple snaps here and there, and we saw how that went, and we see that the Raiders have pulled him out. The problem is he might not be the best guy for the job, but he's going to be their guy until they decide not. I mean, just like I don't think that, Putnam and Meredith in their positions last night were the best guys for the job, but I don't think that mattered, right? You saw Caleb Rogers not even be active on game day. So to me, it's not even about, it's about, not the best guy for the job. It's more about doing things my way. Like that's where I think that the Raiders are. And I, again, could be totally off base. This is just from a bird's eye view, just trying to watch and observe and try to make sense of what doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem like it's all necessarily about the best guy for the job. It's about I'm going to do it my way, and you're not going to tell me I'm not. You're not going to force me to play a guy that I might not want to play. And Geno Smith is Pete Carroll's guy. So until Geno Smith either can't go or I don't know, there's some kind of big call from upstairs that says you have to do this or that, like some ultimatum, I don't think it changes, to be honest with you. I don't know what Kenny Pickett brings to the table. He has a little bit more mobility, but I don't think he's going to be running all game long. We know Aiden O'Connell, he hasn't even been activated to the active roster. That 21-day window is still open. Matter of fact, when we talk to Coach Carroll today, we'll probably ask him about him. They've got to make a decision sooner rather than later, or he's going to be out for the season. I'm assuming that they're going to activate him, but again, I assume Caleb Rogers was going to be active last night, and he wasn't. So, I hate to try to duck a question, but I honestly don't know. And I don't know what is this team looking for as far as their best interest? Are they trying to literally play the best players, win as many games as possible, get some guys, some young guys, some burn to see what they have? Or is it, a pissing match where it's like, no, I want this. No, I want that. Well, I'm going to do this way. Well, I'll show you. I'm going to make this guy healthy scratch. Like it seems like there's a lot of inner fighting, and that's just from the outside looking in.
I did a short study this season on Kenny Pickett, his time in Pittsburgh, which is the most time I actually had a chance to see him play. Now, keep in mind, this is a former first round draft choice. And what I noticed in just the film that I had access to, which wasn't all 22 or in zone all the time, was that Kenny struggled to read coverages. There were a lot of times that he was playing against teams that combo coverage would do part man, part zone, and he struggled with that. And that's part of the reason why he struggled in Pittsburgh. Now, with that being said, he's been a journeyman ever since. Okay, and it just does not leave the best taste in your mouth when the first time he gets in the game, he fumbles a snap. Like, oh my God, from under center. Here we go. So to answer your question, Shantelle, I think Geno Smith is the best option at quarterback for this team right now. Aiden O'Connell is a statue in the pocket. And because this pocket is ever collapsing, if you can't move, you're not going to be any good to anyone out there. So I think Aiden O'Connell's taking, of course, he's still injured on IR. And if he comes back, he probably gives you the second best option at quarterback. But I think Geno Smith is your best option.
Yeah, and I think fans want to see a change at that position because they're just tired of seeing what's going on with the offense and, the takeaways that have been happening. But just in terms, like we talked about all the hits that he's taken, what can that do to a player if you're taking that many hits, you're losing games in the way that they're losing? Like, what can that do confidence-wise, Linc, just in terms of mentality for a player?
Right. I don't want to play. And look, there were times last night he was so fixated to get the ball to Brock Bowers, he didn't look anywhere else.
Right.
There were other guys open. One, he doesn't have the time. Two, he doesn't have the confidence in the guys in front of him. He's looking at the rush. And then at that point, you see him trying to avoid the rush just so he can get the ball down the field to 89 in whatever way it is.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good.
It's really not. And I mean, again, if your offensive line is not protecting you and Geno's getting hit as much as he is all season long, I mean, it's so hard for me to wrap my finger around having him drop back 31 times in the first half, right? I mean, if you're Geno in the huddle and you're calling this pass play, you got to be thinking to yourself, they want me to do it again. They want me to drop back again and again. You sure we don't want to hand the ball to Ashton? Like, I mean, can I get a play or two off where I don't have to worry about, trying to drop back and try to find someone? I have to feel like his confidence is just shot, and for good reason. Again, I mean, as soon as he's getting the ball in his hands, there's a pass rusher around him, right? He doesn't stand a chance. Ashton doesn't stand a chance when he's running the ball or attempting to run the ball. It's just nothing is getting going, and it's basic football. If your offensive line is not going to work and it's not going to put you in a better position, you're not going to succeed no matter what your weapons look like. It just isn't going to happen. And the Raiders, I mean, we're seeing it, and unfortunately in prime time, Monday Night Football.
Case in point, the first half, the Raiders had success with the naked boots, right? So what did Dallas do? They brought one, and they started bringing two. They're like, you're not going to get this ball off. We know what you're going to do. We know the action that you're going to do. We're going to double Brock Bowers. There were times they bracketed him. They had a safety over top and a guy linebacker running underneath, and they were looking for Ashton Jeanty because they know those are two of the main weapons the Raiders wanted to go to. They weren't looking anywhere else.
Right.
And then when you try to complete the ball to Trey Tucker, there's a tip ball. It becomes an interception. They know what routes to sit on because they know that you don't have the time to be able to stretch the field. So unless you really take a 2 steps back and just hurl the ball as far as you can and take a chance where the 50-50 ball that way, it's not getting downfield.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then what's disheartening in the second half, there's no separation. Brock can only do so much. I think he's one of the best tight ends, if not the best tight end in the National Football League. I don't shy away from that. But when he's double teamed, sometimes even triple teamed, sometimes they're running with him. There's a linebacker, there's a safety over top, and hey, there's a corner who doesn't have a coverage in the perimeter who's going to drift into the zone anyways to try to get an interception because everybody wants to eat off of Geno Smith.
Yep.
So these are times where a quarterback has to have the confidence and trust in the rest of his team that other guys are going to get open or I can go to the ball somewhere else. But it was so predictable last night. Absolutely predictable across the board, and that's why they were ineffective. Because if I could predict it, sitting in my vantage point up in the stands, I know the coaches who study these guys can predict it as well.
My guy, Ryan Hogue, former Raiders wide receiver, matter of fact, drafted Mr. Irrelevant back in 2003. He always says what he sees from Geno is instead of reading touchdown to check down, he's reading check down to touchdown. More times than not. check down to touchdown, and that's not going to get it done. And then even when on last night when the check down was there, then he didn't go to the check down and try to force it to touchdown, and it ends up getting tipped and it turns it to an interception. So it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You know, there's moments where he's like, okay, I'm going to read this correctly, I'm going to go touchdown and then bring myself to the check down, and he just makes, you know, mistakes happen. And then, you know, again, seeing it, trying to get the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible, going to check down. I mean, Ashton had what, 7 targets? And they were just little dump offs. He only had what, 6 carries? He had 6 carries and he's had 7 targets. I mean, so that kind of lets you know what the game or how the game flow went for the Raiders last night.
And here's the thing, like, I'm sure Geno Smith is also wondering, like, are we going to run the ball? You mentioned it, Ashton Jeanty, 6 carries. They got him involved in the pass game, but at the same time, they're not running the ball. And in the post-game presser, and I keep going back to this because sometimes Pete Carroll says things and it's like, is he trying to play us right now? Because we can see this product on the field. And he was saying that, you know, for a guy like Ashton Jeanty, like, I think someone asked them, like, you guys ran the ball like 12 times in total, which is like ridiculous. Like, I've never even heard a stat like that before. And Pete Carroll was like, well, no, like it was also play action. Play action's not working. Everybody knows you're not going to do it. Right. Like, everyone knows you're not running the ball. So they know you're going for the pass. So I think that everything on the offense is extremely predictable, but that also brings up the question. And it took me back a couple of years, guys, because is this team worse than the McDaniels era? Because I think it is.
Scoring wise, offensive, making sense wise, yeah. I mean, I'll give you a throwback for real, and Link, close your ears. But this thing reminds me of like Art Shell 2.0 with the bed and breakfast offense that they had, right? Where and everyone's like, wait, hold on, what's going on with this? And you know, it's really, really disappointing. And the biggest issue I have is that Chip Kelly was paid a lot of money to be the offensive coordinator. So my thought, and this is on me for thinking that this was going to happen, I thought we were going to see a lot of creativity. I thought we were going to see a pretty well-oiled machine with this offense, especially let them get going. Ashton, they drafted him number 6 overall. So I kind of thought I knew what this identity of this team was going to be and what to prepare for, you know, as far as the offense, what it was going to look like. And it's been everything but that. So I feel like shame on me for falling for the banana in the tailpipe just because some of the moves that were made makes it look like, oh, hey, this is going to be a fun watch. And it's been everything but that. It's just been a lot of like stuff that doesn't make sense, right? It's almost like it's like a bachelor's apartment, right? You open up the fridge and there's a ton of stuff in it, but none of it goes together. Oh, screw it. I'm just going to make dinner. I'm just going to throw everything together. You know what I mean? Like none of it makes sense, but you're just trying to throw it all together and hope something comes out and it's decent.
You know, Q had mentioned talking to the coaching staff prior to the draft, how they said they liked our offensive line.
Yep. And
we had talked about it many times throughout the beginning of the season we started working together, how on paper, the starting 5 weren't bad. I could see that. I could be somewhat impressed. It was the depth behind that. Mm-hmm. Now that depth is exposed. JPJ's down. Colton Miller's down. You're forced to play a bunch of backups. It was a turnstile last night with those defensive tackles to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was. It was like a revolving door. Every time this ball was snapped, I saw either one of the guards or one of the center turning, getting perpendicular to the line, which is a no-no. You have to manage the offensive line, the integrity of the offensive line. What that means is that creates penetration. That creates run-throughs. Now that takes that gap away from you trying to run the football, the quarterback scrambling there, or whatever happened. The times that he's had a clean pocket, Geno Smith referring to, has been off of naked boots. Because that's the only way they can get somebody free in the flat and stuff like that. The Cowboys picked up on it. They took that away. But when it comes to running the football, it seems like every time Ashton Jeanty gets the handoff from his his position, there's penetration. There's somebody running through, making him cut as soon as he gets the ball. There's no success there. Right. Play's dead. Mm-hmm. Even if Ashton makes somebody miss, the play's dead. It's over with. The integrity of the play is already gone. So if you can't keep the integrity of the offensive line, the line of scrimmage, and together, you cannot produce positive plays. And what's even more harder is when you get into the red zone and the field is condensed, there's less space. That means that you really have to create space as an offensive line. This offensive line has not been able to do that. And so I don't know the answer. It's not a real short answer because people, when I said, look, I would go out there and run the ball 5 times. We don't get anything, could run the ball another 5 times, go a different way. I'm of the old school mindset. When I saw productive running backs, get them the football as often as possible and trust your offensive line. If I'm an offensive line coach, I'm telling them I'm leaving it up to you. you're going to show me that you deserve to be here. Because if you don't, I'm going to make a change. And then see those changes through. Got to understand who's going to make the decisions here, the future going on. Right now, the season is over. And it doesn't seem like there's any hope for positive to be positive when you look at the remaining schedule. I mean, I don't even know if we can beat the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, they got this dude, Garrett, coming to town. You may have heard of him. It's pretty good. He's going to the quarterback. Yeah, exactly.
He's going to feast.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, there's not one single person I could point at and say, this is your fault. It's not. No, it's not. And, you know, talking to the players in the locker room, you know, last night, like Max Crosby said, this is an execution thing. This is on all of us. He said sometimes the defense will make some good plays. The offense can't capitalize. Sometimes the offense will make some good plays. The defense can't hold up their end of the bargain. Sometimes the play calling doesn't make sense as far as what they're trying to do. It's like it's one of those, again, it feels like Battleship, you know, type of play. Like, you know, A3, boom, that's a hit. All right, let's try it again. Like, none of it makes sense. So as much as I could be critical on Chip Kelly, I could be just as critical on Pete Carroll. I could be just as critical on Patrick Graham. Like, there's enough blame to go around, and that's why it's so hard to figure out how you come up with a solution. Because it's like you can't just you can't just run everybody off and hey, we're going to start over. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You've got to at least play out the season, and then you have to sit down and make some tough decisions on what you're going to do moving forward. But there's not one simple answer and one simple solution I can come up with right now that's going to make sense that this is what the Raiders need to do to make themselves look competitive. It's just not possible.
It's not, and mainly because you're playing with a bunch of backups. So you got to create a system that those backups, you can utilize those with those backups. And it's hard to sort because you haven't had any sort of continuity this season. There's no sense of identity.
Right.
So what do we do well? I mean, there's suggestions and bring a fullback in. We don't have a fullback.
Right.
You know, I would say put a tight end back there. And you suit up 4 tight ends, put a tight end back up. But that limits your ability to stretch the field, and it condenses the defense. So then if you're not getting any push off of the line when you spread people out, which I cannot stand this team running any type of spread formation, especially with the tackle being exposed. But you can't get any movement with everybody spread out. Well, you're going to tell me you're going to line a bunch of big guys up and try to push them that way? We haven't seen that work either. You know, you're down on your goal line. You're backed up on your goal line. You can't run a simple dive.
Right.
There were 3 guys in the backfield the moment Shantelle Chand got the football. And this is on the 2-yard line. Mm-hmm. Don't get me started on the false start at home. If there's anything that traps my hide anymore, that is that. If they don't get me started, there's no excuse for that. I don't care how many Cowboy fans are there. You're at home. You should be at peace. You should be easier to understand. But again, I'm not trying to call out anybody specifically, but I'm just saying, much to Q's point, there has not been complimentary football all this season. At times when the offense goes out there and does fairly defense, the defense shuts down or whatever, you know, and then special teams comes into play. We didn't come into the season expecting these holes.
Right.
So now that you have, how do you cover them up?
You know, we've talked about, you got to have a franchise quarterback. Geno's not the answer. A franchise quarterback is gonna be just as bad behind this offensive line.
True.
Like there's not. That's what I'm saying. There's not an easy solution. You could say go get the offensive lineman, and we've talked about this on the show and in brief talk about the draft. Like this might be a situation where you have to go and draft an offensive lineman that's a blue chip guy, a blue chip tackle, like Lincoln mentioned earlier. Spend some of your salary cap space on building up that offensive line, treating it to a bully. But are you going to be able to address all your needs? Are you going to be able to get your quarterback at that situation, or do you have to pass? Like, there's a lot of problems with this team. There's not enough really top talent on at this team in the positions that they need. Right? They need a blue chip offensive lineman. They need a franchise quarterback. They need a blue chip defensive lineman to go across from Max. They need a blue chip linebacker. They need a cornerback. I mean, there's a lot of they need us in this conversation that we're having. And so I don't know how quickly they can get the thing turned around. And by the way, they still got a handful of games in the regular season that they've got to play. So, you know, and there's not a tree out back of the facility that they can go shake it up and have a couple great offensive linemen drop off and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and put, say, Aiden O'Connell in or say Kenny Pickett in, and these guys up front are going to protect them. Nobody's going to be getting protected with those guys up front. It's just not happening.
For every team in the National Football League I saw this past season, before this season, struggle, most notably Chicago Bears. I'm just going to use them as an example. With Caleb Williams and that draft, Roma Duzier, all those guys they picked up. They needed to address the offensive line. Last year, they were an abomination. This year, they're leading their division. And they did address the offensive line.
Yeah.
New England was another one, had terrible offensive line. Go out there with their first pick. They draft the guy, the kid from the LSU, Carpenter, right?
Yep.
The tackle, their starting tackle, one of the best teams in the league.
And that was the question. That was the question going into the draft this year, right? Do you go Armand Membu? Do you go Ashton Genty? Like, I had those conversations.
Yeah.
One of my big questions was, and this is not a knock on Ashton, was how many more wins does Ashton Genty get you? How many more? You had 4 wins in 2024. How many more wins is he going to be worth? Is this team in position to actually maximize and showcase his talent behind that offensive line? So I had debates on my radio show, on the podcast, or whatever you want to call it, sitting around the bar. Is it a good decision to go running back, or should you go with Membu? Membu's doing a hell of a job right now in New York.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is not a knock on Ashton. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's a fantastic talent, and he's going to help the Raiders at some point. He's not helping the Raiders right now because, like Lincoln said, he's making 4 cuts before he even gets the ball.
Exactly. Got to win the line.
Yeah, no, but that was my question. My next question, I think you guys kind of answered it. The biggest need, and the Raiders have a lot of needs.
Yes.
Q, you mentioned it. They have a lot of needs. They need a little bit of everything, but their biggest need is to address the O-line. And I think everybody thought it would get addressed in the offseason. It didn't. They were happy with how the O-line played near the end of last season, and they brought back some of the same guys, and it just hasn't worked out. And so I know a lot of Raider Nation wants that franchise quarterback, but I think here's the thing. It doesn't matter who you have at quarterback. If you can't protect him, you're not going to have a good offense. Like, look at what we've seen from Cam Ward, right? Cam Ward has had some great moments, but his O-line is terrible. And he continues to get beat up week after week. And the Raiders can't protect a quarterback. And there's, we're going to get into the next segment. In the final segment, Q and Linc are going to be taking some of your questions and comments. So if you have any comments or questions about the O-line, or if you want to dive a little bit deeper into the quarterback position, please keep them coming in the chat. But coming up on the next segment, guys, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. And also the coaching staff. Both of you guys mentioned PG. Is he also on the hot seat? I think you could argue that everybody is, but keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're listening or watching the Raider Squad Show.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Welcome back, Raider Nation. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. And you can also follow us on our social media channels. You'll see in the description below the ways that you can connect with us. We also want to say thank you so much for making the Locked On Network the #1 sports podcasting network. We do appreciate you, and we do appreciate your continued support of Locked On Raiders and the Squad Show. So we were talking about the O-line, and I think you guys both agree that is the biggest need that the Raiders have to address this offseason. But they're going to also have a little bit of cash. But Linc always says, hey, if there's a O-lineman that's available, like that tells me something, right? Because, I mean, O-linemen, really good O-linemen are usually teams want them. So they're taken. Yeah. So when you take a look at
you're
this
going to
draft,
have to compete, Shantelle. You're going to have to compete in the free agency market. You're going to have to compete. You're going to have to commit big dollars to somebody like a James Tooney or something like that, one of those guys. And it's absolutely essential. Now, look, I'll preface this by saying this when it comes to the draft, and I've been to many Raider Nation draft parties. When they drafted Cole Miller, it's not a sexy pick. I get the offensive lineman is not a sexy pick, even though I'm sexy. But,
I mean, you're
outside of you. I get it. It's a long time. Times have changed. But the thing is that it's a necessity. It's an absolute necessity because you have to take care of the guys up front in order to take care of the guys behind you and to protect. And I don't care who you have back there at quarterback. A couple years ago, there was a quarterback can't miss draft when 6 quarterbacks went in the first round. The Raiders passed up on. Theirs was taken, Michael Penix, when he went to Atlanta. So they went to decide to go another route. Of course, we got Brock Bowers. Okay. But we still need a quarterback. We got to find a quarterback. So that franchise quarterback. Now, I haven't done the college evaluation like you guys have. I know that. So I'm not really paying attention right now to the college quarterbacks that I think are capable of being successful on this next level. But I don't care who you put back there.
Right.
If you do not have the right personnel up front to protect, it's not going to work. You're not going to get the ball to Ashton Jensen. You're not going to get the ball to Brock Bowers. You're not going to get the ball downfield, as we've seen this season. And so it's very painful. So Raider Nation, start doing your evaluations on tackles. You typically don't pick a guard in the first round unless he's just a stud.
Right.
And I can't think of any of them that are out there. But the Raiders are going to have a top 10 pick. So it's either got to be that franchise quarterback or that franchise tackle. I'm hoping they start with the tackle.
Look, I wouldn't have any problem if they did kind of what the Giants did this year. The Giants went and got their defensive lineman that was a stud in Carter, and then they traded back to go get their quarterback. I would have no problem if the Raiders, and obviously we'll talk about this draft process way later, had no problem if they went and got a Fano out of Utah or a Proctor out of Alabama and then doubled back and got their got their quarterback. I think Mendoza's definitely the best one that's going to be out there available. I like Simpson out of Alabama. I like Moore. Moore and Chip have a history. Just going to throw that out there. All right. There's other guys. There's guys that are available, but it's not that class, like you said, Link. Right. It's not the one where 6 of them went in the top 12 picks. And, you had Williams, Daniels, and May go top 3. I mean, I think all those guys have clearly been hits. Other guys have questions, right? There's questions about Penix, who's now injured again and is going to be out for the rest of the season. Bo Nix, we've seen him up close and personal. He's good for what they are doing in Denver, but he's not some guy that wows you. And J.J. McCarthy, he barely has played, so we're still getting to see who he is. So far, we know 3 out of the 6 have been hits, and Bo Nix has been successful, so I'll say 4. Let's just throw that out there. I'll give him that props, but we don't know. And again, there's a handful of quarterbacks that I see as first-round guys. I would have no problem if they decide that they're going to go tackle and then QB, or if they see a QB that they say, I can't get him a little bit later. Let me get him right now, and then double back and get your top-notch offensive lineman. You have to. We know there's a couple things we know. This offensive line ain't it. We know Geno ain't it long-term. We know that, right? They've given him the money, but we know that he's going to be a short-term guy, and we know that they need help defensively. Like if the Raiders were in a better position, I'd want them to go and get like Caleb Downs out of Ohio State, but he's a safety, and you're not. And this team can't afford to go and get a safety right now, with a top pick because they have so many other holes. Like there's a lot of holes on this team, and they're going to have to weigh this is our top priority. This is B. This you're going to have your different levels to the game. The Raiders team's got a lot of work to get that they've got to do to build this team up. That's why they have to understand who's in the building, so they can decide who they need to bring into the building.
And I just want to make one point, because I've heard so many people talk about the money that Geno Smith is getting. That is the starting money. That is quarterback for a starting money for a starting quarterback in the National Football League. The number is what it is. $35 million is pretty much the base starting number for a starting quarterback. If you can get a good quarterback cheaper, then you've done well. Mm-hmm. But more times than not, it's around $35 million. So when you're going out to the free agency, you're a free agent, especially at quarterback. Every quarterback I've ever known and ever been around wants to be in the top 5% when they get their new contract. And so that ups the ante to every quarterback that comes after it, no matter whether they deserve it or not, because every team needs a quarterback. So there are going to be somebody who's going to pay for it. So don't get so enamored by the number of what we pay Geno Smith. That's the going rate for a starting quarterback in the National Football League.
Justin Fields got 2 years and $40 million.
Absolutely.
And Justin Fields ain't never proved to be a quarterback, and he's benched again. So I mean, it is what it is. It's the going rate. I mean, even if you look at the guys that are getting paid the top dollar, even if you're looking at the guy who played last night, Dak is in the $60 million club by himself, right? I mean, he's there. Trevor Lawrence, right? A guy that the Raiders have lost to. He's not fantastic, but he's in the $50 million club, right? Justin Herbert, $50 million club. Like the money for starting quarterbacks is ridiculous. Yeah. So the best friend to a franchise is a quarterback on a rookie deal. Problem is, you got to have that quarterback.
That's true. That's true.
Find him.
You got to find him first.
Yep.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned Justin Fields. Like, remember, Justin Fields, regarded out of OSU, was like supposed to be that guy, and we've seen him struggle. So that's another factor of the whole draft process. Like, you never know how a guy is going to pan out.
It's always a crapshoot.
Always.
Yeah, and in this draft, I don't think there's a clear-cut quarterback that should go number 1 or number 2. So I think for sure you have to address the O-line first. And of course, you know, you mentioned Fano and Proctor. If you can get Jake Slaughter, because you like later on in the draft, because I feel like the Raiders aren't sure about that center position, then maybe do that. But they have to stack up on the O-line. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Guys, I want to quickly touch on the coaching staff because they are on the hot seat. You mentioned that Dante Moore and Chip Kelly, like they have a little bit of friction there from when Dante Moore was over there with Chip Kelly in college. However, I don't think Chip is going to be here next year. That's my opinion. I don't think Chip is going to be here.
See,
just because
the thing about that, Shantelle, real quick, and I apologize for cutting you off, is
cool.
The fact that, you know, who's the power structure? Who's making the calls? You know, who's deciding who's going to be here? Is it going to be Pete going to be here? Is it going to be Chip who's going to be here? Like, I feel like someone's going to be the fall guy. I couldn't tell you with a straight face who's making the decision on who's going to be here and who's not. You know, is Chip Brady's guy? Is Mark Davis? Is Pete Carroll Mark Davis's guy? So, you know what I mean? Like that's where I'm confused. I don't know, because this wasn't done, in my opinion, the way that it should be, where you hire the GM and the GM brings in his head coach, so you know that they're all in lockstep with each other. I don't know that that's the case right now.
I've always said coaches coach, players play. And it's hard to differentiate between where is the mistake, where's the mistake here? Mm-hmm. Is it the play calling? Is it the execution? I mean, it's really hard to tell what's going wrong. With that being said, and it's unfortunate, we cannot keep going through coaching changes, right? At any capacity. Sometimes you're just going to have to take your lumps, and it's going to be a hard pill to swallow. I understand, Raider Nation, but you cannot keep making coaching changes. Every time you make a coaching change, especially a power of offensive defense coordinator, they're going to come in with the ideology or philosophy, I want my guys, which might not be what you have on the roster. Sometimes coaches don't look at that when they take the job. Sometimes they do. What do you have? What do you have available? And that's probably why the head coaching search was probably so difficult for this team. When you talk about in the offseason before they got Pete Carroll, all the people they were courting and recruiting, that might be the reason why. You look at the roster like, whoa, this is not going anywhere soon. This might be a disaster. I might not have a job after 1 year. That's the risk that you run. So you can't keep making coaching changes. And I understand the frustration and the impatience. Trust me, I get it. Really do. I'm 55 years old, and I felt inspired to go out there and punch somebody in the face last night. And I don't want to do that. Those days are behind me. Okay? I'm trying to be good. I've got a standard set. But the fact is that when you have such a passion for such an entity like the Raiders, and as we're passionate as we are as analysts and Raider Nation, we want the best for this team, and we want it right now. We hate to see our team get embarrassed like it did. There's building blocks that you have to start. In those building blocks, you have to be patient. As I mentioned, the Chicago Bears, after they drafted Caleb Williams, they had a disastrous year. People were talking about he might be a bust, running around for his life. They went and addressed the offensive line. Now look at him. Year 3, isn't it? It's
year 2.
Year 2?
Yeah, year 2.
Okay. Year 2. They're leading the league, and he's playing well, and he's playing with a lot more confidence, especially with his receiving core in his run game. Yep. So that's where you see everything kind of coming together. And I don't think the Chicago Bears are a Super Bowl bound team, but their record is going to be better than they did last year, which shows me signs of improvement. So as you talk about those building blocks, Shantelle and Q, where do we start with? There are 4 positions that I've always keyed in that are top 10 worthy in the National Football League draft. There's franchise quarterback, franchise tackle, shutdown corner, rush in. Those are 4 of the premium positions that you can't get enough of. Yep. And if you look at the New York Giants with their defensive line and their outside linebackers, the commitment they put in the first round picks of that draft, now they've got a potent pass rush. They've got a defense that can at least play. Their offense is a little cumbersome, but they've got a defense that can challenge you and they can get to the quarterback, which is what you want by today's standard passing league and everything else. So there are a couple of options coming up in next year's draft for the Raiders. We'll see how the evaluation goes. But much to Q's point, who's doing the evaluating?
Should it not be Spy Tech?
If you fire a coach, I mean, it's supposed to be the general manager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If we ran an organization and I was the general manager, and Shantelle, you were my head coach, and Q, you're my offensive coordinator. If I come up to you, what do you need?
I'm gonna tell them, hey, I need a quarterback, I need offensive lineman, right?
Now I'm going to Shantelle. Q, you need a quarterback, and we need an offense. There we are. Okay,
okay, gotcha.
You told me we need a quarterback, we need an offensive lineman. Who do you like? Because this is who I like. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Then it becomes a combined effort. That would be the way that I would have a hierarchy in my team. the Lincoln Kennedys. You know what I mean? Because I want to be able to trust what you need,
Right.
and you trust me to be able to go and get it. I don't know if that's there yet. We've got 1 year with SpyTech. I don't know if it's there yet. We're going to see.
Guys, really quickly, I want to address PG because PG has taken a lot of heat as well. And Q, you mentioned someone's going to be the fall guy, and someone's probably going to get the axe earlier than somebody else. Do you guys think that PG is also very much on the hot seat, just as much as Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll, even though at times I feel like it's not PG's fault, like it's not the defense's fault, because they can't stay on the field for that long. If they're on the field for that long, they're going to get tired and they're not going to be able to stop offenses. Q?
I just think that everyone is on the table, whether that's right or not. I don't know, and maybe Lincoln has a better idea. I don't know if this is necessarily 100% what Patrick Graham wants to run defensively. It feels like it's a marriage between his defense and Pete Carroll's defense.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I do not think this is Patrick Graham's defense. When I see some of the things that they're running out there, that is not what I've watched Patrick Graham do in his coaching career. So I think it is a collaboration between Pete Carroll and Patrick Graham. I'm certain with that.
Yeah, and so we'll see what happens as the season goes along, but I think we all agree no major coaching changes will be made anytime this season, probably after the season is done, just to not have things so chaotic. But we'll see. Coming up on the other side, if you got any questions or comments for Q and Linc, please drop them in the chat. We'll be back after a quick break. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. And remember, you can also follow us on our social media channels. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcasting Network the #1 sports podcasting network. All right, guys, I got a couple of questions for you. This one coming from Twitter, actually from a good friend of the show, John Wooden, who says, I will be listening, but I know Q and Linc disagree, but I believe we need a coaching staff to be around more than 1 or 2 years, but not this staff. I feel like you guys kind of agree with that, I guess.
I think we've been talking about that for a while.
Yeah. He says the team is showing no progress, direction, drive, and Brennan Carroll should have been fired already. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, that's always going to be, I think that's the default, go to immediately. It's Brendan Carroll's fault. But look, I don't even know how good an offensive line coach he is, because again, it goes back to the personnel. Do you have the personnel to even do the job? That's the biggest issue. I don't care who you have out there coaching. You can have the best offensive line coach ever to play the game and coach the game. But if you don't have the guys that can get it done, what are you doing? I mean, it always goes back down to, players. It goes back to, what Lincoln says, coaches coach, players play. What does the execution look like? That's my biggest question. When I see, Coach Carroll at practice, I mean, everything looks like everything's going fine. Everything looks like he's coaching them up the right way.
Because we're talking about practice.
And then when they get to the game, then the light turns on. It's a different story.
True story. And when you have the title run game coordinator and you don't have a run game, there's an impasse. It's the way I look at it. I'm trying to understand. I don't know enough about Brendan, and he did coach at the University of Washington last year before he came here. So I got a small sample size to see him, but I still don't know him enough in detail to know what style, what his philosophy is, where he is. It just hasn't come to fruition. I do know that.
Right.
And that could also be the players you have executing. You might have a plan in mind. If you don't have the right players, it's not going to be executed properly, especially on this level. I don't know.
Right.
Again, we're still in evaluation. We are evaluating this coaching staff because it's the first year they're put together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Joe Philbin's on the squad too.
Exactly.
Joe Philbin's a hell of an offensive line coach. He's been doing it for many moons. Took over last year when they made the changes. And so, I mean, he's there too. And I would think that if he recognized something not going the right way, he'd probably say, hey, we need to do this.
But on that point, on that point, my 2 cents is that if he wanted the job, he would have had it.
It's a good point.
It's
a great point.
He's capable.
Yeah, he's
more than
capable.
capable.
He's worthy.
But if he wanted the job, he would have had it.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
It's a great point.
Yeah. All right. Question from Tyler McNair, who says they only have 2 games they can win, the Browns and Giants. Does Shedeur Sanders light up the Raiders on Sunday? Do you guys think there's a chance that Shedeur Sanders could have a breakout game against the Raiders?
I don't think so. I know that's an easy reaction because, everyone all of a sudden looks great against the Raiders, but I think the Cleveland's defense is going to be what's going to really bother the Raiders on Sunday. I don't think it's going to be the offense. Shador is going to have moments where it's like, oh, that was a really good pass. Then he's going to have moments where he's going to backpedal 15 yards and try to, he's still trying to learn the game. And I don't know if he's going to be able to cram everything into 1 week and all of a sudden come out to be some great quarterback that he hasn't been all year long. I'm interested to see what it looks like, but lighting the Raiders up, I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm more concerned about number 95 on the other side of the ball
Facts.
because he is chasing the opportunity to be the sack champion on a very poor team, which I don't think I've ever seen before, but it is what it is. So I'm more concerned about number 95 than I am 12, getting his first start, feeling the pressure that I know Shador is feeling because all the attention that's been paid to him throughout the season, and now he's finally getting play. There are a lot of people who are focused on him. Sometimes guys, fold under the lights until they get comfortable. It could happen. But right now, it's hard for me to predict the Raiders beating anybody from what we saw last night.
Right.
Yeah, and coming up on the next episode on Thursday, 7:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, we're going to be breaking down the Raiders, the Browns, all of that. You guys won't be joining me from Q Studios, though, on Thursday, but possibly the following
I
Monday.
might go to Phoenix, man. I might go to Lincoln Studio, man.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Kennedy Compound always has room. The Kennedy Compound always has room. How we do things. Big man, I create space. That's what we do.
All right, we'll be back, Raider Nation, on Thursday. Thanks so much for rocking out with us this morning. And make sure to drop some comments or questions if you have any, and we'll be able to get to them on the next episode. We'll see you on Thursday.